Welcome to your Reddit channel.
What do you miss about the 90s?
I honestly miss the internet from the 90s. I spent so many hours exploring, reading things, every webpage felt like I was visiting someone's house. They were so personal as design standards did not exist yet. I enjoyed my Netscape navigator. And I loved my IRC chat rooms. Keep in mind I was like 9 and 10. Lol, so I mostly spent time in Pokemon chat rooms that had bots. Discord is not the same as the IRC days.
That Friday afternoon after school feeling, when you knew you had 2 glorious days before you had any responsibility again, so you'd call your friends on the landline and hope their parents didn't pick up so it wouldn't be awkward and you'd get together and just go outside. That was it. There was no plan, but maybe somebody would bring a football and you'd have a pickup game at the park.
Building cubby houses, playing in the creek, rollerblading, then coming home and playing Sega Nintendo. I miss taping stuff off the TV, hanging out in my room still playing with toys, reading cool magazines, going through my card collections. The hype of the cinema, back in the 90s. Not being a slave to technology, but still having wicked gadgets like Walkmans.
Before we had mobile phones, my wife and I would plan to meet at a certain street corner at a certain time after work. We sometimes had to wait for the other person to show up, but we knew they would.
Air travel. Holy shit, I miss 90s air travel. Did you know that before 9/11s, it wasn't a massive pain in the ass to go fucking anywhere? Loved ones could walk you right to the gate. You could bring snacks, sandwiches, and drinks onto the plane with you. The prices at Hudson News were perfectly reasonable, because if they weren't, you could just walk out of the terminal and grab something. You never had to take your shoes off for any motherfucking thing. In fact, it used to be rude to take your shoes off in the airport. That's completely 180D. I used to fly 3 or 4 times a year, and it was usually pretty easy. Now, I fly maybe once every 5 years, and I absolutely dread it.
Not being contactable 24/7. Piece of leaving schoolwork and not having to deal with their nonsense till tomorrow. Edit, too many to reply to. I know you can turn it off, ignore it. I've not bothered about work off the clock for years. It's the fact that it's a constant in many people's lives, ingrained and seemingly accepted practice both in our professional and personal lives to be always available. Leaving the typo.
We didn't live online yet. The internet was in its infancy and was a fun way to pass the time, but it hadn't consumed us. Business was still being done in brick-and-mortar stores, our social lives were offline, etc. There was almost nothing to be purchased online other than the online bookstore called Amazon. Pretty cool because they had a bigger inventory than you could fit in a building. And so it began.
Going to the mall and hanging out with friends. Malls were awesome, and I hate that the strip mall style has taken over. Especially up in Canada, where it gets to -40 in the winter. Back in the day you could legitimately spend hours wandering the mall, indoors and warm. Now it is depressing. Maybe the big malls like Mall of America or West Edmonton Mall are still okay, but the ones in my city are shit.
Something my wife just brought up while talking about this Post magazines, man. Everyone had their favorites for whatever hobby or interest you had. For me it was Guitar World, picking up the issues with bands I loved and plinking along to the tab on my crappy electric guitar. For my wife it was 17, checking out the most recent trends. Or Thrasher when it was just a skate magazine and not a clothing brand. Even Rolling Stone was a big deal for mainstream artists. Then those of us into an alternate crowd, there were tattoo mags like Savage. Me and my wife used to scour our local 7-Elevens waiting for the new issue of Savage to show up. I get that you can find blogs, etc. online with the same info, and most of these mags still exist, but it's just not the same.
This is going to sound depressing, but I was in my teens and had optimistic hopes and dreams for the future, both for myself and for the world in general. It's all been replaced with misanthropy. I'm pessimistic about the future and have very low expectations of what's to come for humans, including myself.
Music felt more special because you kind of had to take some risks when buying a CD. At best you could listen to it at one of the stations in the store, but other times you might have heard a song on the radio or watched a music video on MTV. I bought some albums where only the song I liked was good, but still tried to appreciate it all. And then you had some albums that were legendary and you could bring to friends' houses just to share and listen to. Don't get me wrong, I am still amazed and appreciate having pretty much any song on my phone, but the lack of access was a fun time. The discovery and sharing was just different.
There was a large goth scene. I liked the goths. All the ones I knew cared for each other, were good people at heart. Might have a tough exterior, but they were the kind of people you want around when you are feeling unsafe or had a mental health crisis.
People having real fun. I think people are more concerned with posting something and going viral now. I really hate that you can just be minding your business, doing something with family or friends and enjoying yourself, and somebody will randomly record what you're doing so they can call you corny and get likes and views. People are too scared to actually let loose and have fun because there's always somebody with a phone waiting to catch you looking silly while you do anything so they can record and post it.
Blockbuster. There was this magic to walking in and seeing all the VHS tapes stacked up high with so much awesome presentation, the excitement of getting a film you have been super excited about, and the bucket of popcorn coming with candy and soda was just the absolute best part of the week. My job life at that time. I worked at an absolutely awesome company in the 90s for the best boss I've ever had to this day. I was doing just enough business travel to be interesting, and my wife got to come along on a few trips, which was pretty awesome. Finished uni in 92, got married in 95, bought our first house in 98, it was a good decade.
Honestly, the thing I miss the most, and the thing that is so hard to explain to modern kids, is hanging out. Before cell phones, people used to just go to each other's homes or to some public space and just spend time together. This continued well into the internet era, but smartphones large killed it. Early cell phones were very basic and functional, basically just like having a landline in your car bag pocket. You could call someone or receive a call, but what did you say? Most of the time it was just making plans to hang out in person. You weren't using the cell phone for long phone calls just to chat, those minutes were expensive.
I miss that there was less pressure to be perfect. Nowadays, due to social media, especially sites like Instagram, so many young people feel like it's necessary to always be dressed well, always wear a full face of makeup, etc. Sure, we had unrealistic beauty standards and plastic surgery before, but to me it feels like it's gotten much worse and also much more uniform than before.
Believe it or not, the lack of readily available access to the internet, I missed it when you can just strike up a conversation with a stranger using simple questions like "Wow, did not expect that rainstorm," or "Hey, do you have any idea how to get to this place?" And also having friends that would call me out to just play somewhere. I remember spending whole afternoons in the 90s just exploring stuff near where we lived. Those were the good times.
As a primary school student for most of the 90s, I was surprised to learn that students these days don't write in each other's yearbooks at the end of the school year. It was primarily a place to leave phone numbers, confess crushes and all the rest with people you'd never see again. Today, you'll just see them on social. I guess that's fine, but the yearbook signatures do such a great and lasting job of telling you what your life was like back then.
Just being able to take my bike with my friends and roam the town, explore the woods, build jumps and forts, and all we had to do was be home before the streetlights turned on. I don't think I would let my kids do this now without a cell phone or smartwatch and a few check-ins throughout the day. I'm talking 7 a.m. 8 p.m. in the summers, we'd all just go to whoever's house was closest to where we were indeed there.
Actual good TV and animation quality, rap music that isn't mumbling garbage or generic pop music, advertising wasn't always in your face, and certainly not at the fucking gas pump. We weren't slaves to our technology, as they were more like tools or a means to acquire information. And lastly, I just miss the days where you and the boys could show up to your mate's house, ring the doorbell, and play some N64 or whatnot. I feel like neighborhoods are less connected nowadays. I remember when my mom needed extra ingredients for a cake, she'd send me over the neighbor's house and good ol' Mr. John would lend some flour or baking powder. Now, everyone keeps to themselves. Last year, some lady even called the cops on me because I tried to return my neighbor's dog that got loose through the fence.
Going to a record store and browsing albums, finding something I liked, and maybe having a conversation with someone in the store about it, whether they thought it was a good album or not. Also, the smell of those stores was just so nice. There are still record stores, but not as many, and those that do exist have way less music than they used to. Many of them have music left, but sell more novelty items, shirts and other music and movie merchandise. It's sad to see.
I miss the radio. I used to listen to the radio all the time when I was a kid, just to see what was out there. I listened to baseball games, the news, music stations playing songs I've never heard before, etc. I used to have a scrap of paper with some of my favorite stations taped to my radio. I also never had a digital tuner, so I got really good at tuning manually. I still have my dad's old alarm clock radio from before I was born, so I still do that now. When I turn on the radio, every station runs ads for internet radio with thousands of stations with thousands of genres that can be infinitely personalized. Never listen outside your comfort zone again. Also, I can't even hear stations because so many electronics interfere with them. No more college radio, no more tiny small town channels with super specific programs. That's also where I used to listen to sports. I also miss flipping channels. Digital cable boxes have such a lag that it's not even worth it. I used to like to explore the TV during commercial breaks, and sometimes I'd find something really interesting. I no longer watch TV if I can help it. I still use paper maps, though, especially if I am traveling long distance. It's good for my brain, and not everywhere in the western US has cell coverage.
Sitting on the porch with pink boombox blaring Think Pink by Barbie without a care in the world. I ask my mom, who doesn't have Reddit, and she says Tupperware parties. They were great, a lot of fun actually. Your dad was a Kirby salesman for a little after the Marines, those guys were ruthless. So there's that.
The fall. Growing up in Georgia, summers were hot, so that first crisp cool air in the fall just hit different. You knew that was the signal of all the upcoming holidays: Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Going outside and playing with your friends and talking about what Halloween costume you got, and flipping through the Toys as Christmas catalog talking about what you hope you're getting for Christmas. Just the innocence of it all. No technology to get in the way. Your only worry was making it home before dinner. God, I miss those days. As much as I love tech, I hate it for ruining the bliss of childhood.
Interacting with human beings. People not dedicating their entire lives to creating a fake online persona. This isn't a generational difference of opinion or perspective. Modern life has significantly less meaning and gets worse as people live their lives online more and more. It's really sad. Millions of possible lives of happiness and meaning throwing into the trash of the internet. I truly want to escape this world. I'm working to do so.